Clickety clack, guess who's back? It's Penguin's Records with episode 40 of The Great Attorney. Welcome to Drebber's Workshop, people. That looks like... Oh! It's another super high voltage kinesis machine! Indeed, it would appear so. Only a prototype, naturally. Ah, so you got her then. Yeah! Well done for finding this place. In such little time. You really worked out miracles. It's Toby here, who a miracle worker. Ah! I thought you'd would show up before long. Hello, Inspector. That one knitted brow. He looks like he's eating lemon, not a bag of fish chips. So, Inspector, is there any sign of the engineer? Sadly not. We didn't find a soul here. Oh, what a shame. Well, thank you for letting us know about this place and giving us the chance to investigate. According to what Gina tells me, we only found it thanks to a clue what you lot turned out. Wouldn't want to say. Got to Paris with a debt of gratitude I'm paid now, would I? Thank you. Anyway, if you're hoping to snoop around here, I'd like to get cracking. Orban's legs and the forensic investigation team are on their way as we speak. And again, imagine you got the picture by now. They don't take too kindly to lawyer types. So then, my dear fellow, let's turn this place upside down while we have the chance. And you, Sholmes. Well, pardon? They take everything less kindly to great detectives than they do to lawyers. Very droll, Gegson, very droll. Me considering me nothing more than an inconspicuous waxwork model. An inconspicuous waxwork model. Right then, let's see what we can find here. I'm sorry, Mr. Nahodo. That machine is covered by the Special Dispensation from Scientific Equipment Act. There would be serious repercussions if you were to examine it. From the Crown and Government. Well, those two don't seem to be holding back. It's quite hollow inside. No working parts or devices of description to be seen, my dear fellows. No discharge chain dropped on the floor or nothing. Not even a bump for Toby here, my dear fella. British people are very much ruled by their own ideals, aren't they? I think that's just these two, Miss Sato. I agree. Ah, this appears to be the most interesting. Yes, the most interesting indeed, I wouldn't say. It's impressive looking back massager, for sure. It's a trophy! It's a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science. A young scientist could wish for no higher honor. Would you like a massage? No, I'm fine, thank you. I had no idea it was such a grand thing. Oh, it's a trophy, alright. I think it's becoming increasingly clear that there's much more to this Mr. Enoch Drebber than conjuring tricks. I could agree no more, my dear madam. And how about you, Mr. Nahodo? Wouldn't you like to take it with you? For your tired shoulders, of course. He's not going to let that go, is he? It's curious, though, isn't it? You would expect an important trophy to be proudly on display somewhere, not haphazardly cast aside. English gentlemen can be quite mysterious at times. There's a little metal plaque here, look. Fostering burgeoning talent for the future of scientific discovery. It seems rather ironic, doesn't it? But clearly Mr. Drebber really was a very talented scientist. What on earth is this? An aeroplane, Mr. Nahodo. One day, scientists believe it will allow humans to fly freely in the skies. Is that how a trick will be described? Is it? Sorry. Well, it's actually suspended by a thin, very strong cable, isn't it? Oh, well, this model is yes, but real airplane would fly high in the sky, while suspended from somewhere even higher in the sky, of course. Because of large metal objects, obviously, can't really stay in the air unsupported. No. Yep, ever taller towers. You'll be surprised at the modern world, Mr. Naruhodo. I forgot the door. This door doesn't want to open. Yeah, looks like we got a pretty hefty lock on it. There's a specialist locksmith on his way over the yard, so hands off till he gets here. With permission, Inspector, could I have it locked open? I could have that lock open in less than a minute. Well, you don't have a permission, and no one's given it to you. Yeah. Well, I see no sign of anybody on the other side. No, Drebber must have fled at the first sign of danger. Oh, wait. I saw that. Some golf clubs. It's an European-style quiver of arrows, with a steel bowl inside. You suppose? Crossbow bolts, these. And they're just the right size for the bow you allowed turned up at the exhibition grounds. In other words. Yep, that's more evidence to support your theory. It all goes to show that Mr. Drebber was the one pulling the strings behind the scenes in all this scam. Who is it? Is something wrong, Mr. Sato? Well, I thought I heard a noise. From the far side of the lab door. Well, Gina, did you hear it too? Yeah, I heard it all. What y'all reckon, Toby? Right, mind the grease! Who's everything there? Open up! It's Scotland Yard! Oh my. Someone is in there! Arrgh! This is rotten, bleeding luck! My dear Gregson, as I said only minutes ago, if only I were carnage, I can unlock the door in less than a minute. Fine, I'll take the rap for it. Just get us through that blasted door. There! You managed well. You've confused minutes into seconds, I think. Time is the essence, I feel. What are we waiting for? Nothing for it, I suppose. It's an emergency. There's a strong possibility that beyond that door is the engineer you all seek. Prepare for action, my dear fellows. Yes. What's happened here? Why is everything upside down? Rats! There ain't no one here after all. But there must be. They're only minutes together we heard noises. Maybe that was the sound of Drebber running away. But nobody's on the... There's only one door in this room. And no windows where that could afford an escape route. No skylights are too high. What's that up there? Are there footprints on the ceiling? Blows me! What do we have here then? Looks like someone was trying to burn something in a hurry. Oh, that looks like a set of blueprints. To what? To Professor Herbert's farming machine, is it? Blimey! If we had these, there'd have been no need to buck about trying to investigate all this scrap metal. There's something of great interest here, too. This rope. was lying on the floor at the foot of that pillar. A rope? What's the significant about that? Never mind. You see, but you don't want to observe, Mr. Naruhodo. We must investigate the entire room thoroughly, before this forensic investigation team arrive too. Mr. Nashams, have you found something? Yeah, that's a bomb. Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, in point of fact, something rather fascinating. What do you make of this? Let's see. I've never seen anything like this before. It looks like a bundle of thick cigars wrapped in a large watch time, but... Mr. Tatsu, what's the matter? That's a... Sure, that's a time bomb, isn't it? What? Did you just say, a time bomb? Sorry, but what is a time bomb, exactly? Yeah. You truly are one of a kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I won't take it that as compliment. Ha! You don't know nothing, do ya, Naruhodo? You haven't got a clue what it is either, you have, Eugenia. I invite you to consult a dictionary later, Mr. Naruhodo. But this particular specimen is no time bomb, though I confess it has a very similar appearance. Oh, well, thank goodness. But then, what is it? I see, so it's that it. Mr. Sholmes, have you seen the heart of matter? There are times when I consider my lot most unfair. For I'm fated never to know how it feels to founder when the puzzle presents itself. I have learned to accept the hardships that come with being great detective, Mr. Chisato. Here we go. I feel a great deduction coming. Once again, I can draw two conclusions from the scene the week before us. That the first is that the invented nature of the furniture in this room is the work of Drebber himself. How could you? And the second conclusion, that this small device on the floor is without question completely genuine. Please, Mr. Sholmes, you must explain everything. It would be a pleasure. After all, it's a great detective's civic duty to teach Scotland Yard the finer points of the trade. Well, Inspector Gregson seems delighted with the idea anyway. Oh, you deflected the inspector's glare with such fortitude there, Mr. Sholmes. Well done. You're too kind, my dear madam. I hereby dedicate this great deduction to you. Oh, yes. I'll be delighted. So, shall we begin? Once again, Sherlock Sholmes is 5%, logic and reasoning spectacular. Alright, here we go. It's plain to see that this room is completely disarray. The bed, table and chairs, the lamp, everything is upside down. Almost every item in the room had, until recently, been happily positioned on the ceiling, before falling straight down to the floor. Even item in the room was ceiling? Are you suggesting that? Indeed, the key here... It's gravity. It appears that technology had at last succeeded in freeing us from a great pull of Earth. And the gravity in the room was reversed, and then restored to normality. Goodness! The inverted furniture clearly reveals the truth about this gravity in the place of business. I quite understand your pessimism, Mrs. Tatsu, as they too was incredulous at first. However, my conviction was an analysis that cemented it when I observed this. An anti-gravity device! Almost identical to the one featured in the dream of mine. Only the other day, in fact. But then why does it have a clock on it? A most relevant question indeed. That timing device that controls the gravity direction will switch. It's a clear requirement for the engineer to be able to restore normal gravity automatically. The commotion we heard earlier from the other side of the door was the moment of the restoration occurred. Yes, the reason why everything here has been turned upside down is because of this anti-gravity device. So you see, we no longer prefer to explain the state of which we now find this room. direction in which gravity acts here is reversed by Mr. Drebber. Before restoring to normality in an automatic fashion by some time later to the timer device, I have witnessed precisely the scene in a dream I once had felt out of bed. Well, yeah, blah. Because gravity was reversed. Missing engineer. Now, let's consider the next conundrum. What was our engineer friend's name? And clearly, the greatest clue have to explain his actions is above our heads. Yes, how is it possible that there are footprints all the way up here on the ceiling? A question whose answer will lead us neatly to the truth, my dear madam. The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby skylight. Of course, Drebber's aim was singular, to escape. However, there was but one way in this room, excepting the skylight, that is. By inverting the gravity here, Mr. Drebber was able to fall conveniently into the ceiling and make his escape via the other side of the accessible skylight, leaving his footprints behind on the way. But the ceiling in here was very high, Mr. Sholmes. If the gravity was reversed with sudden, wouldn't Mr. Drebber have fallen into the ceiling rather violently? The falling up is both scientifically and philosophically rather interesting concept, I feel. But the man was cornered with nowhere to run, so the escape through the skylight was his only option. You may recall that I found this rope earlier, which I believe offers a solution. Oh, the rope! To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this rope? By anchoring one end into the wall, the man was able to lower himself safely to the ceiling. Which explains how Drebber was able to escape the room from before our arrival. He reversed the pull of the gravity, and fled to the skylight. And personally, I should very much like to reverse the pull of gravity again now, just for fun. This concludes Harlock Sholmes' great deduction of this topsy-turvy puzzle. Bah! She's completely spellbound. Mr. Sholmes, there is just one thing that troubles me. I expect nothing less. You're destined to be troubled by just one thing for the rest of your life. The thing is such a thing actually possible? An anti-gravity device, I mean? I would say that with the man's current scientific knowledge in the turn of the 20th century, there's no more possible than instantaneous kinesis. Oh, your whole deduction hinges on it! Ah, but my dear fellow, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. However improbable may it seem. This marvelous line, wouldn't you agree? One of my more enduring pearls of wisdom. It's clumsy. I have a feeling I've read it in my time. Mrs. Satchel lent me once. Objection! Actually, there is one other thing, Mr. Sholmes. The spell is broken at last. The rope you found on the floor, wasn't it? Indeed it was, my lonely cause near the wall. But if Mr. Drebber had used it to escape the way you had described, wouldn't it still be tied to the wall? You have a hole! The streets inevitably unravel at the end. And if you think you'll find 2 ropes. Nah, I have a feeling he's actually purposely getting some things wrong. I think perhaps we might need to give Mr. Sholmes the usual helping hand. For my corrections, the great deductions will lead us to the truth. You're right. We must do it quickly before Ash Drebber gets too far away. If you're ready, let's resume. Harlock Sholmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. It's plain to see that this room is completely disarray. The bed, the table, and the chairs, the lamp. Everything is upside down. Almost as everything I have in the room had until recently been happily positioned on the ceiling, before falling straight down to the floor. Everything I had on the room was ceiling? Are you suggesting that? Indeed, the key here is gravity. It would appear that the technology at last succeeded in freeing us from the gravity pull on Earth. Gravity enters from the reverse then, suddenly restored to normality. Goodness! The inverted furniture clearly reveals the truth about the gravity play on this whole business. And gravity has been reversed in this very room. Found the idea of utterly enthralling. Yep, only Mr. Sholmes could make such a addition. It's a scientific impossibility, so... Enthrall. Capture the fascinating attention of. You're quite right. We must completely discount the idea at once. Oh, that's unusually merciless of you, Mr. Sato. And if it remains impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. The great detective himself said so, didn't he? While refusing to part with his dreams of anti-gravity devices. Yes, I suppose so. Well, let's see if examining the topsy-turvy scene a little more closely reveals some proof that shows exactly what gravity in this room was or wasn't doing. Lamp, no evidence. Well, I wasn't expecting to find a pretty bunch of flowers in here, that's for sure. Look at that! I know, that slender little vase looks like it's absolutely toppled at a moment, but the flowers are thriving. Somehow it makes you think of the fragility of life, wouldn't you say? To be honest, Mr. Naruto, something else about it made a rather deeper impression on me. What did I say about this? Ah, look, Mrs. Sato. When everything seems to be upside down in here, the safe is conspicuously right way up. Have you noticed? That's true. But look more closely at the safe's feet. That's a lot very large bolts fixing into the floor. Think before you speak. That's what you wanted to say, isn't it? I really put my foot in my mouth there.
Take that!
The upbreak vase clearly reveals the truth about the part of gravity play on this whole business. Yep, what my word in it? I skipped my words. You've turned the argument on its head! By trying to impress your assistant here, perhaps? No one's trying to steal your spotlight here, Mr. Sholmes. Trust me. As you rightly say, though it appears at first glance that all the furniture in the room is upside down, this unassuming, slender vase standing keenly with attention. Unlike the larger safe, there is nothing affixing to the floor. With the exception that it breaks the rule. In short, much as it pains me, the gravity in this room was never inverted at all! My deepest sympathy for your loss. Oh, poor Sholmes. Michelle, go on. Let's go on. Let's continue with our deductions. Now we know this convenience is not in fact an anti-gravity device, there remains but one other possibility. You don't say. Someone deliberately turned over every piece of furniture in here, which might sound obvious, but leaves one mystery very much unsolved. Namely, why would anyone choose to do that? Quite, and naturally, there is one explanation. Yes, the reason why everything here has been turned upside down is because of this anti-gravity device. He's absolutely determined that this device must have something to do with, isn't it here? I'm afraid the lore of the exciting scientific explanation is too strong. Well, there's no doubt somebody did this. Somebody turned all the furniture over. Whoever it was must have done a reason. Afraid nothing comes into mind at all, though. Let's look around, maybe see the answer present itself. Just wonder what the other red herring option is. Coal burnt heater. Look, there's something wrong on the side of the armchair. Oh yes, safe. 432582. Safe? And a safe and secure? No, a secure lockable box, I think. Admittedly more likely. There is a large safe bolted floor on the other side of the room, so yes. The number would at least open it. Wonder why it's right here, though.
Take that!
The reason why everything in here was been turned upside down is because of this safe combination. Precisely. I believe, Mr. Naruhodo, that you had a very similar experience once, didn't you not? Yes, last year. When I brought a lottery ticket and another ticket number down the inside cover of my book in the case. That's it. For people who are forgetful sounds at heart, always make a rightful note of important information. Just keeping it to ticket itself would seem more sensible, I think. And what, pray, happened next, Mr. Naruhodo? The day the jar came around, I forgot which book I'd written number and had to turn my room upside down to find it. That's it! For people who are forgetful souls at heart, and always forget where they're knotted things down. Not if you always know things in the same place. Actually won the second prize, you know. But I couldn't remember which magazine I slipped the ticket into, so I had to change my room upside. Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe I proved my point now. Which is part of the similar scenario and has clearly unfolded in this room. Finding himself required to access the safe, the occupant of this room needed a combination code. He remembered that he'd written the underside of this piece of future, but forgot which one, leading to the state in which he now found the room. Yes, Mr. Drebber overturned the furniture in here, in a separate hurry, to locate the combination code that would unlock the safe. Now, let's consider the next conundrum. Where's our engineer's friend's aim? Undoubtedly, the greatest clue we have to explain his actions is above our heads. Yes, how it's possible that there is such footprints all the way up in the ceiling? And now, who's the truth, my dear madam? The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because there was a nearby skylight. Well, if a change in the direction of gravity can't explain it, then how did these footprints get there? Yes, I feel as though the particular mystery has just become even harder to solve. I can't think of any other way to explain it at all. Life was so much simpler in those Heikon days when gravity could be reversed. It was minutes ago. Those Heikon days would never exist in the first place. Well, I suppose we may simply owe our faith in Mr. Sholmes and explore the area in more detail. Put our faith in Mr. Sholmes is what gets us in this situation in the first place. It's hard to believe, but there are shoes up here, look. Oh yes, and there were more footprints up on this little balloon too. Perhaps the shoe was thrown up because of lodge, you think? If so, then judging by the number of footprints, it must have been thrown up several times. Why I wouldn't be throwing shoes up in the ceiling though? Oh dear, that's beyond me, I'm afraid.
Take that!
The reason there are footprints in the ceiling is because they were a nearby shoe. In one close inspection, there are clearly footprints all over the balloon as well. In other words, the aim was never the skylight after all, but the balloon. But, for what purpose? Green balloon? That seems somewhat familiar, Data. A piece of green balloon's envelope that Mr. Naruhodo and Iris found at the scene. Green balloon that Mr. Gods claimed fell above the stage when the incident occurred was the second birdcage, the crux of the whole instantaneous kinesis deception. You mean to say? We've seen the balloon in here, it's a mob for the use on the day. There is a strong possibility that some may conceal inside it. Something of our discovery was desperate to retrieve before making this hasty getaway. But what if the balloon's out of reach? Hence why he resorted to a projectile, namely the shoe. Most probably, Drebber intended to tear a hole in the envelope by sealing it with the shoe. However, his efforts were thwarted when the shoe itself became a prisoner of the lofty heights. Oh dear. We desperately need to examine the balloon. Well, there was some way we could get inside. You may recite that I found the room earlier, which I believe is the solution. The rope? To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this rope? Sholmes has managed to bring the detection to a rope! Alright, I have to admit, that was clever. So we just throw the rope up the balloon and then pull it down on the ground, which is much easier than done, I feel. True. Perhaps we need a more fire way method. In fact, we already have one, of course, don't we? Maybe we should use Andrew! Just kidding.
Take that!
Ah, son, Spike. Just kidding. We had context. Reach the intended destination. What better tool than this crossbow? We found out the scene, in fact. In all likelihood, belongs to Mr. Drebber. If the man had only brought away from him that day, he could have avoided losing his shoe at such critical times as this. So, shall we? The curiosity is deeply stirred, no doubt, my dear fellows. What is it that Enoch Drebber had hidden inside that balloon? No way! Well, you're probably wondering why my reaction was that fast. The truth is, I know where this head goes. A waxwork? It is! The waxwork head inside a metal mask! A mask that's shut tight and fastened with a strong and impenetrable lock. So we can't see the face inside, that means. Just a moment, this is the head of the waxwork model. That mean, oh goodness! And see, you've joined the dots, Mr. Sato. Excellent. Of course, a headless waxwork model. The case of the abducted Madame Tussbell's model is largely solved. It was only the head of the kill that was missing. Indeed, it was. But I believe Madame Tussbell will not have to settle her sizable account with me. This, as you have it surmised, is the head of the famous professor. But why is it here? This conclusively confirms my suspicions. The man responsible for stealing the professor from the Madame Tussbell's and returning it earlier today is none other than Enoch Drebber. This is incredible. Professor Harebrain's case and the waxwork abduction are they're inextricably linked by Enoch Drebber's workshop. Well, it appears our logical pleasure clears. Let's get to an end, my dear fellows. All it means is, yes, to speak with the architect of this adventure. Architect? You mean Mr. Drebber? Now, it seems quite impossible that he escaped via one of the skylights. Obviously, the man must still be in here in this room. What? Oh no, I had the deduction cleared. If you simply reflect on the journey we've made together during this deduction, now Drebber is right here, somewhere in this room. And I think I know where. Mr. Naruto, will you do the honors? Yes, of course. Mr. Drebber's hiding place must be the... If you need to hide, there's no better place than a wardrobe. I stand firmly by that. Ah yes, you had some experience with that yourself a year ago, didn't you? Well, if I'm in there, mark my words. You'll be curled up in a ball, trembling and hungry. Never mind, Mr. Naruto. He could be hiding somewhere else, you know. Look at all that mess in the front of the safe. Yes, plain and count ledgers. Someone was hurried to empty the contents of the safe in there, in fact.
Take that!
Before we gain access to this back room, we heard a noise from here, which tells us that the engineer was still in the building at the point of time. He was in fact searching for the combination to his safe. And pressed for time, he made no attempt to right the furniture he overturned in the process. from which we can deduce that a search for this combination will happen very recently indeed. In summary, Mr. Enoch Drebber is at this very moment inside the safe. This concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this topsy-turvy puzzle. So, Mr. Naruhodo? I think perhaps it's time we ended this game of hide-and-seek, don't you? I'm opening the safe, you mean? What else? Let's see. The combination was 1432582. I knew that! Alright then, let's go. You found me. Right then, sir. Mr. Enoch Drebber, I presume? Correct. You better start talking. You tricked Professor Harebrained into that bogus machine you built. And you shall have to explain the theft work of waxwork to Madame Tussbells as well. What I would be delighted to answer your many questions. Personally, I would advise that you deactivate my little parcel first. Deactivate? Your parcel? I preferred, of course, to the time bomb. I left it on most prominent position. Ha ha ha. I see. Stunned silence. You're all gearing up to die with me then? No! Mr. Sholmes, with only 7 seconds to spare. It was too close for comfort. I got one foot in the grave already. Are you trying to help us get killer or get us killed? Mr. Sholmes' deductions can be completely life-alerting, can't they be? Life-altering. Well, my dear fellows, that was close shave. Your semblance to the anti-gravity devices were quite startling, I must say. Anti-gravity devices don't exist! I wouldn't push it, Mr. Sholmes. I still can't believe we were nearly blown up. What was that? Sideways glance of aid, Mr. Naruhodo. I thought I was deducing the main of the movement for people's eyes, especially Mr. Sholmes. Never mind that now. Let's see what Mr. Drebber has to say for himself. God, death wish, have ya? I'm right beside a tickling time bomb. Please, why do you suppose I chose to hide inside a safe? It's no ordinary safe. It's specially designed. A dynamite explosion wouldn't leave a scratch on it. So in fact, this safe was the only safe place. Precisely. But once you climbed inside, you wouldn't have been able to get out again. I invite you to look more closely. Yep, there's a handle on the inside. Ah, so this is. I'd always intended to blow this place to smithers. In any case, I just wasn't expecting you to invite guests to come along and screw my plans. Do you mean to say you're planning to blow us all up? No, that was unforeseen. What do you mean? Most people run, you see, when they see a ticking time bomb at their feet. I calculated the time required for retreat to a safe distance and then set the device accordingly. But you seemingly endless here and there threw a planner spanner in the works. Is something wrong, Gregson? Do you have something on my face? Besides my usual eyes, ears, nose, and mouth? What on earth happened here? You found me, haven't you? No need to screw me down any further. Everything in here is precisely what it seems. Yeah, well, we'll be giving it through our luck going over it. Don't worry, Drebber. What fails to click with me is how you were able to locate my workshop. That I was not expecting. When I heard whistling from the other room, I knew it was time to bolt. Whistling? Ah, that would have been me. Oh. For some reason, I woke up in fine thought today. Oh, words, just tightly squeezed chips. Clearly I must have screw loose, though as I couldn't remember the combination for the safe. And another one loose. I couldn't remember which piece of furniture I ran it down. I also found the rope by the wall. Yes, I had hoped to exist through a skylight, but sadly the rope was too short. So I then set about searching this combination code to open the safe. And burning the incriminating blueprints, don't forget. Regrettably though, you failed to retrieve the head from the balloon among the rafters. And after that, you hid yourself inside the safe? With having first set a parcel ticking. Well, I had no intention of being nailed by the police. I think we have a fairly good idea what's being going on here now. What about the two incidents you've eventually been involved in recently? Professor Harebrain's instantaneous kinesis experiment, the Great Exhibition, and the waxwork model you stole, which his head belongs to. And that's no ordinary head, you know. That's the head of the professor. Carried with a lock so strong, I'm unable to open it and see if they reveal the killer's identity. I've been considered carrying it around as protection. After all, that's enough! What's going on here, Gregson? I'm sure you're aware that I sold jurisdiction to investigate here. Yes. Well, Dr. Scythe again. So the Forsyth investigation team are here. And you know full well this engineer is a key witness. Why are you allowing this lawyer to access him? If Lord Strongheart knew this, you'd be finished. You lot, leave at once. My dear madam, there's no need of such threatening tone, I assure you. After all, that's no way to greet an old acquaintance, is it, Miss Dr. Scythe? Hello, Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes knows Dr. Scythe. It's protecting the machine next door to causing such a sour expression on your face. Are you quite misguided? It's really nothing more than a show. You get out! Well, of course, we'll show ourselves above the door. I see you haven't softened at all. Mr. Naruhodo? Yeah? It would appear that our delightfully entertaining investigations have run their course today. Mr. Sholmes! Let the leave its place in the doctor's capable hands. I said get out! Now! All of you! Your presence here is not required either, Gregson. Understood. But I'll just say one thing before I head off. If it wasn't for this lawyer and his companions, we'd never have found this place, and the whole workshop would have been blown to bits. We have the time bomb set in here. That this lot disarmed. Inspector? Go. Something giving you a chuckle, has it, Drebber? Ah, so sorry. Didn't mean to offend. You're quite right, of course. You disarmed the time bomb, didn't you? Yes, you did disarm that one. What you... That one? Yeah, you mean... Oh, God. It was an hour later that we heard the news of the enormous explosion that ripped through the experimentation stage at the Great Exhibition. Professor Harebrain's invention and all of its secrets were blown away forever. Yes, good morning to you, Mr. Naruhodo. Ah, good morning, Professor. Ready for today's proceedings? I hope so. I should be. Even I, with nothing left to... Good morning, my dear fellows. Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Glad to see you're here. Why, naturally, a true gentleman stands shoulder to shoulder with his friends in battle, at all times. Thank you, and I really appreciate it. I'll see you later then. Now, Professor, we'll really need you to remain calm in the courtroom today. Do try your hardest not to enter the witness stand uninvited again. Yes, I will. I realize that was a mistake, but My dear fellows, I must interject. Oh, you're still here. What's the matter? Surely you've overlooked some praise, have you not? To be cast in my direction. I don't follow. Must I spell it out? I, the great Sherlock Sholmes, the great detective of worldwide acclamation, are across the ungodly hour to be here now. First thing in the morning, a miracle, you must agree. If I must agree, then... As you know, my sleep is quite impregnable. Iris has to employ her full gamut of tactics. She pulled the covers off, shook me, poked me both cheeks, punched me, and kicked me from the bed. Then she put a boiling cup of her latest experimental blend on... Ah, God. Not the sweet 10-year-old we know. Oh my. Iris has been busy, and she acted like a child for once. She doesn't have her to go that far. She's too nice. Ah, I sense the spirit of a fellow scientist. One who must relishes on the infinite possibilities of blending tea. And be worthy of praise here, not Iris. This is my victory. Sorry to cut in. Oh, Inspector Gregson. Good morning. Gregson, my dear fellow. Why the grim expression at this delightfully early hour? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because I've been confronted with the grimmer expression, eh? Dear me. Are you going to take that as an insult lying down, Professor? What? What? I don't know! Professor. Anyway, here's the paperwork you asked for. What paperwork? Ah, I took the liberty of requesting it yesterday. I have a feeling it may prove useful. You won't believe the hoops I had to jump through to get this brought to the archives. Brought out of the archives, that's what I meant to say. It's the professor's autopsy report. Oh, that mass murderers who killed 5 members of the aristocracy, including Clint Von Zykes. He was found guilty in a closed trial 10 years ago now. It's all done under the wraps. It was quickly executed soon after the trial. It's all in here. I don't know what to say. Thank you so much, Inspector. Yes, much obliged, Gregson. Us lowly lot at the yard are just doing what we can. In the shadows of the great Detective Sholmes, of course. Well then, Professor Harebrain, this is it. Today, we're going to lay all this to rest at last. I wish you best of luck, Professor. I suppose he'll be in there today, will he? Drebber. Yes, we expect the prosecution to summon him as a witness. I'm still amazed that you managed to find him in just one day. I really owe you both so much. Counsel and the defendant, the trial is about to resume. Reach kindly way into the courtroom at once. This is it then, the final chapter. Funny, my heart's racing a little. I've not felt this before actually, this strange foreboding. As if something's going to happen in this trial that I'm not ready for. Yeah, you can say that again. This is actually my second run of doing this. Because I actually had to use story mode a little bit, and the breaking Drebber's testimony is actually really cryptic. Which is also why I am re-recording this. I'll explain what you have to do. In the name of Her Majesty, the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the public hearing of Albert Harebrain, here and present, who stands accused of murder. Are the counsels for the prosecution and defense ready to proceed? The prosecution is ready, my lord. The defense is also ready, my lord. As promised, Lord Van Zykes has apprentice with him, his apprentice with memory loss. Oh yeah, I also should bring out the... All you need to really notice here is that the report was written by Courtney Stevens, which appears to be no one we know. Although the closest name we have in the files would actually be Courtney Scythe. Not sure if that's going to be relevant later or not. Thought I would just put that to head. If I may, Lord Van Zykes. Yes, my lord. There appears to be someone standing at your side. Ah yes, my apprentice and assistant. The prosecution believes today's proceedings will see the complexity of this case rise considerably. Therefore instructed my assistant to attend, and to ensure a smooth running of the trial. And the smooth running of liquid refreshments. Yep, his endless supply of chalices. It couldn't be anyone else. Yes, Van Zykes is the only one that holds the lifetime expensive chalices to like that. I don't even know what I said. I would appear that the prosecution has done a fine job in my responding to the demands of the court, made yesterday. Yes, my lord. I intend to call him as a witness shortly. Very good. Very good. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, who have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this courtroom today, are you ready and willing to proceed? Of course, my lord. I'm sure we all understand the importance of doing our civic duty. I do despise deception and deceit. I find it so very wearing. To take a man's life with a conjuring trick, it is against a magician's code, not to mention the law. Any fake scientist should feel the wrath of God, if you ask me. Well, I have to listen to what's said on both sides' defense. And, we'll settle this on one. That's it, isn't it? Wasn't it like this in my day? Wasn't like this at all. If all parties are ready to proceed, you may begin, Lord Van Zykes. Before I do, my lord, there is a report I must read to the court. Yesterday, at the Great Exhibition grounds, the evidence of primary importance in this case, the super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine, which was installed on the experimentation stage, was deliberately destroyed in an explosion affected by an unknown person or people. It was... What? An explosion! This is an outrage! Yes, I heard this grave news yesterday. Scotland Yard submitted a report to my office in the evening. I heard that the machine was busted to smithers, and the wreckage was reduced to ashes and flames. I have here a photographic print of the scene taken in the week of the explosion. It shows what little remains of the machine. Yes, a terrible business. He did it to destroy the evidence, didn't he? That Enoch Drebber. The court will take this print as evidence, counsel. Yesterday afternoon, the protection afforded to the machine by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act was revoked. However, before a thorough investigation could begin, the invention was obliterated from existence. As such, this will become a very different trial. Yes, I'm talking to you. As it stands now, with no evidence which to draw meaningful conclusions, the authenticity of the kinesis machine will remain forever in obscurity. Indeed, a most unfortunate state of affairs. However, one thing remains clear. The victim's death, and the result of the execution of the accused, Of that we can be certain. For it was the accused himself who was operating the machine, and who ultimately caused its loss of control.
Objection!
As our Lord Vinzelix rightly says, this is a very different trial now. The accused accepts responsibility for his part in the events that transpired. He acknowledges that Mr. Osmond died as a result of the accident caused by his machine's malfunction. However, unbeknownst to the professor, he was being deliberately deceived by a pair of very clever fraudsters. Names, counsel? The engineer, Mr. Enoch Drebber, and the victim himself, Mr. Odi Osman. So what exactly were these two men up to behind the defendant's back? The defense intends to expose that information, thus establishing the unequivocal innocence of the defendant. Thank you, counsel. The position of the proceeding and defense have clearly been stated. Lord Vinzelix, summon your first witness, please. At once, my lord. The prosecution calls the engineer, Mr. Enoch Drebber, to the stand. State your name and occupation for the court. Name, Enoch Drebber. Occupation? Hard to pin down, I would say. See that black monocle? Yes, why do I feel I've seen it before somewhere? Oh, you too? I had the same feeling. Your file indicates that you are currently being investigated in connection with another case. The theft of a waxwork model, is it? But that has no bearing on this trial, I assure you. Cleave it from your mind. You're familiar with the public experiment carried out at the Great Exhibition some days ago. The accused super high voltage kinesis demonstration. You could say that. I am aware of it. There was a terrible accident, wasn't there? Yeah, an accident you caused. It was you, Mr. Drebber, who constructed the vast machine used in the experiment. Or so our investigations indicate. You can confirm your involvement? Yes, I constructed it, in precise accordance with the blueprints, but that's all. When the court would be very interested to hear your thoughts in the machine, I'm sure. An amazing device, if you ask me. The pinnacle of modern science, making instantaneous kinesis a reality at last. What? Gracious! You mean to say that the experiment was a bona fide? A success? Is that your belief, sir? Yes, it was very much my belief. A waste it was blew up.
Objection!
But you blew up the machine!
Objection!
You've established nothing of the sort. All that's shown during yesterday's proceedings is that the same outcome could have been produced by the means of stage trickery. The defense merely proposed a method and demonstrated its feasibility, nothing more. We've procrastinated long enough, I feel. Witness, you will now give your formal testimony about the machine that you constructed for the purpose of demonstration at the Great Exhibition. Understood. I met the young professor approximately 1 year ago through Mr. Osmond's introduction. He provided me with the blueprints and I constructed the machine to his precise specifications. It was no trick. If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a body double. Tell me, did the victim have a twin? All the spectators saw the birdcage appear above their heads and then crash headfirst into the crystal tower. When I was first playing this, I definitely had a feeling this was a contradictory line, and I was right. My first assumption is that from this image, all the smoke may have made it impossible for people to see the cage coming. Although, that was actually not that plausible. The contradiction is actually going to be seen here. As you notice, this is actually a busted up area, and this would be near the foot of the machine, where he says it crashed head first. A terrible accident, I grant you. Perhaps the science on which remains the machine was flawed somehow. A body double? That goes without saying, surely. To give the impression that something has moved when in reality it hasn't. It's a basic conjuring principle. The deception cannot be achieved without substituting the original fake at some point in the performance. But would I be right to say you haven't managed to establish anything along those lines? Incidentally, the prosecution has already confirmed that Mr. Osmond had no twin siblings. And such talents do not indicate that he was actually able to accomplish what he claims. Yep. Yesterday's proceedings brought the true nature of your past exploits to light, Mr. Drebber. I think this is all a bit of irrelevant talk. I feel like this is specific to kind of distract you from the main purpose. You were supposed to what you have to do is pay attention to his testimony and not get distracted. The science trophy was red herring. The whole discussion's about the body double. It's not going to help you at all, though that's also red herring. Sold some secrets in the past. Let me just check that. My hypothesis at the sound can always be forged into a physical manifestation with sufficient skill. Alright, this might be important later, though I may have sold the secrets of some subjective wells. Okay. An unfortunate accident. Or, of course, a deliberate act of murder carried by a minister of science. Counsel for the defense. Your cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. Alright, I'll be straight up. Basically, reading the first three hardly give you any time. You just get some extra context. You know what?
Hold it!
For the sake of experience, I'll show you anyway. Basically equated with Mr. Osmond, not really, I've seen by chance. No interest in private affairs, no interest in mine. People pay the bills, to construct what they asked for. Just like Graydon, he's not gonna say anything. This is also gonna get you a little embarrassed. This is the one we're gonna want to go after. Crash head first, you say? Unlikely. I rarely leave my workshop. So yeah, you do show the crossbow. That's basically an indicator. You can't use crossbows to contradict this round. You really aren't going to get a lot of progress here. But I remember the first three steps, but I don't know anything else afterwards. Let's get past this part since it's a little spiky. We've examined the birdcage that crashed into the crystal tower ourselves. You can see, the cage, which was a wooden construction, has sustained damage in one particular spot. Following the explosion, it fell some 30 feet into the glass of the crystal tower. That level of damage is to be expected, surely? I agree. What doesn't make sense is the location of that damage. All the breakages in the wood are at the base of the birdcage, not the top. What are you saying? That the opposite of where it should be. That's right, my lord. The birdcage that was seen is damaged at its base. The only way to reconcile these two facts is to accept that there were two birdcages in play that day, which were at some point switched. Switched during which wasn't a scientific experiment at all, but an elaborate piece of stage trickery. Gah! Okay, I may have rushed that sequence a little bit. Good gracious, explain yourself, witness. Well, if I examine the facts, there's only one logical conclusion we can draw. The damage on the base of the birdcage clearly indicates that it crashed to hell first in the tower.
Objection!
The multiple witnesses' reports claim that it fell head first. The birdcage materialized in the sky next to a balloon flying over the stage following a spontaneous explosion at an altitude of 60 feet above the ground level, which is approximately 18 meters, and then fall some 30 feet, Witnesses amidst such chaos are notoriously unreliable.
Objection!
Yeah, that's somewhat plausible. The victim's neck was broken.
Objection!
He plummeted 30 feet inside a heavy wooden cage. However he fell, it would seem unsurprising to find one or two of his vertebrae crushed. An riveting scientific analysis of the events of such prosecution there. To be even more rigorous, you would have to say it was only one vertebra, actually. It wasn't quiet for long. I find it hard to see what's motivating Lord Van Zykes. This witness is clearly a swindler and is one who deceives a personal friend of his. If you are going to establish this deception, do it right. I feel like that's the undertone here. Ah yes, and there's one more point. The defense appears to have forgotten. It's obvious it wasn't a trick. A certain truth very plainly demonstrates. It seems to me that this cross-examination has better continue while we resolve this matter. Mr. Drebber, you will demonstrate your truth. Wait, the orange words? We must treat the matter. The kinesis clearly took place because there's nowhere to 30 feet high for the birdcage to have fallen from. Yeah, this is also a very hard one. You can definitely tell from the context that you have to contradict this statement.
Hold it!
What do you mean? Well, before the demonstration began, the victim was alive on the stage in front of the audience. Yes, there were lots of witnesses who saw Mr. Osmond experiment on station stage, that's true. And the victim's neck broke as a result of impact of following the fall. Logically, therefore, the victim must have fallen from somewhere. The balloon from the explode was an altitude of 60 feet. The point of impact was the tower on 30 feet up. The difference of 30 feet is therefore the total difference of the birdcage fell. And there's no other location for which the cage could have fallen that distance if it didn't drop out of the sky. Ergo, the victim himself must have been beamed from the stage onto the sky above the crystal tower. A trenchant scientific analysis. Dear me, every time I hear it explained, it sounds increasingly plausible. Oh yes, it's all very well thought out. Certainly all the spectators on the day saw it. The birdcage plummeting 30 feet into the air, I mean. Irritatingly, yes. So yeah, even though this seems very unlikely, you have to contradict with this old piece of evidence. The whole canon thingamajig. The context, well, think about it, 30 plus 30 equals 60. They're saying it was 60 feet high and then he fell 30 feet, meaning he was at an altitude of 30 feet.
Objection!
This is the diagram of the experimentation stage and its surroundings. We know that somehow, the birdcage appeared in midair before falling down into the crystal tower. A fall of about 30 feet, or 9 meters. However, if you examine the diagram carefully, you'll see that there is one other possible location which the birdcage could have fallen. The same distance of 30 feet. No! Well, it appears the defense had the possible explanation for it put forward. Go ahead, counsel. Yes, my lord. Of course. You will indicate the place that we are referring to in this diagram. It might be crazy, but I think it's supposed to be here. Although, my memory's a little bit foggy.
Take that!
The place I'm referring to is here. But that's where the birdcage would have been to begin with. And yeah, this is also, I'll call this entirely fair either, since we're saying the birdcage fell, and the answer is in a horizontal location that is at the same altitude. Which is exactly the point, my lord. Yes, the birdcage is the machine on the stage, but what we must allow consider is the height of the stage itself. Go on, counsel. It turns out that the experimentation stage was built at a considerable height above ground level. If you look at the diagram, in fact, you'll see that it's about the same height above ground as the balloon above the crash site. When the experiment got underway, the machine and the birdcage were engulfed in steam. Okay, I will be honest, I did not see that. At the moment, the floor... Okay, this makes much more sense now. The moment the floor gave way, and if we assume there would be a void underneath, this makes much more sense, because this clearly looks like some type of trapdoor. This birdcage and the other one seen by the audience would have fallen almost exactly the same distance. Okay, now I get it. That is hard. Once again, my lord, this is all points to the fact that there was one birdcage, but two!
Objection!
My learned friend has no evidence that stage that had such a contrivance in its design. Someone is responsible for the criminal destruction of the kinesis machine itself, and it's true. However, the stage still stands. And take a moment to look at the photographic print of the scene following today's explosion. Good lord, the metal grill that formed the floor on the machine is undone! Yes, most likely blown open by the force of the explosion that destroyed the rest of the machine. The defense calls for the space below the stage to be investigated. Immediately! Mr. Drebber? It was you who built the kinesis machine, which means that it was you who built the two birdcages that were used to carry out this deception. Whether Professor Hairbrain's hypothesis is sound or not makes no difference, because it's the construction of this machine that matters. A machine that's designed to take Mr. Osmond's life. And lay the blame firmly at the professor's door. Something that you could have only been carried out. By you, Mr. Enoch Drebber. Whoa!
Objection!
About time you object. So, Cosmo's basically now Von Zeyck's corkscrew. The prosecution would like to crush the defense's argument slowly, but surely. Unlike that chalice. Your argument fails to hold water. On 2 counts. Two valid arguments literally can't hold water. Firstly, well, true, arguments can't hold water. Just like Von Zeyck's broken chalice. Before or after the experiment, this witness went nowhere near the kinesis machine. Every relevant member of staff from the exhibition has attested to that. And I believe members of Scotland Yard have also been on watch duty every public experiment. In other words, Mr. Drebber had no opportunity to squish alleged pair of birdcages.
Objection!
But I've already explained why he wouldn't have needed to. The nonsense with the crossbow? That doesn't bolster your case at all. The man who disappeared from the stage and the man who crashed into this tower are one and the same. The forensic investigation team's report is unequivocal to what on that point. And the second flaw in your assertion is a distant lack of motive. Why would this man have wanted to take the victim's life? He had no reason to do so. A motive? Do I have to think of everything myself? I have here a contract provided by witness. What contract is this, my Lord Van Zeyck's? The contract which Mr. Drebber entered with the victim, Mr. Osman. It reads, Mr. Drebber is to receive 30% of all remunerations from the government grants or other income. 30%. Certainly very favorable contractual conditions. But there is one very important provision bolted onto that clause. What provision? Mr. Drebber may only uphold his right on condition that both contracting parties are alive. In other words, if either of us were to die, the contract would become null and void. You see, I had nothing to gain from Mr. Osmond's death. Now damage the opposite, my fact. Need I say more? The witness has neither an opportunity nor a reason to commit the alleged crime. In short, the possibility of Mr. Drebber having done you as suggest is null. We don't have that evidence yet. Wall slam! It seems the defense assertion was somewhat wide of a mark. Lord Van Zykes, you will submit the contract as evidence, please. It's true. Let's see. Alright. The Ozman, the Drebber. That's not going to be good for us. If Drebber had no opportunity to switch the birdcage under the stage, if he won Crystal Tower, he couldn't have done it. And in any case, I have no idea what his motive may have been. There is one aspect of your argument. That still holds true, however. There were 2 birdcages. Prosecution is unable to deny that. So I'm sure you're right, on the right lines, Mr. Naruhodo. And I have no doubt there are other aspects to your assertion that are undeniable truths too. Well, it would seem that the defense has no rejoinder to offer. Well, it's going to be hard to see if there's anything standing out here. My only guess is that this could have been forged by someone. But Lestrade took away our card. That card that signed him. I forgot his signature. Well, I must say I'm a little surprised. I think I might be right. I think that signature may have been forged by him. However, since Lestrade has our card, I can't use that against him. I came here to testify about the machine I built, and instead my reputation is defiled. Your reputation's already been defiled. But the prosecution counter has set the record straight, I think. It's impossible that I'm the culprit.
Objection!
At the beginning of this trial, we believed that there was only 1 birdcage, yet now we know there must have been 2. In other words, there was more to the demonstration than we realized at first. I think it's abundantly clear that the same applies to the culprit. Get to the point. The stage demonstration was constructed and set up entirely by you, Mr. Drebber. Therefore, it's inconceivable that you had no hand in the events that transpired. So circumstances mean it's impossible that you could have carried out the crime yourself. It points to the fact that someone else was involved. Someone else? Counsel, are you suggesting... Yes, my lord. Mr. Drebber had an accomplice.
Objection!
An accomplice, now? Well then, I presume. You're prepared for what's to come. Now that you've accused not only this witness, but someone else of the most serious crimes, these accusations turn out to be false, then make no mistake. The prosecution will demand an equally serious punishment for your slander. Well, counsel, do you intend to pursue this course and formally accuse another party involvement in this matter? What do I do here? A moment, this is a little more than I hunch on my part. I don't know for sure if Ms. Drebber had an accomplice or even really had its culprit here. One way or another, though, I have to make my position clear. As a lawyer, what's my stance going to be? There are 2 possibilities of accomplice. We found this glass in the waxwork for the professor. Well, that's because he stole the head. And then there's also... I don't think calling Courtney Sykes would be necessary now. I think he does have an accomplice. The defense is ready to name Mr. Drebber's accomplice. Somehow the two bird cages must have been switched. Everything points to that. Yet according to the coroner's report, that's not a possibility. But that inconsistency itself is a clue. Oh. Interesting. My lord? You have received Stark with a warning already. If you are nevertheless determined, then I must now ask you to identify this alleged accomplice by name. So, your answer, please. Who do you claim to have been Mr. Drebber's accomplice? Either have to be Tuspels or Courtney Scythe. I was leaning more towards Tuspels, but she could have just been threatened by Drebber, but that also could apply, but it was just a ransom of money. Yeah.
Take that!
The name of the person in question is... What's wrong, my omnipotence friend? Surely your fear doesn't blind your tongue now. It's a little late for that. Of course, I'm afraid. After all, naming her in this capacity is definitely going to make waves. A lot of waves. I could very well turn every single person in this courtroom against me. I'm sure it will be alright, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you, Mr. Sato. The enemy always appears larger than life, but you'll appear exactly the same to the enemy. Alright then, here goes. You've kept us waiting long enough. Your answer, counsel? Now. The person who colluded with Mr. Drebber in order to carry out this wicked crime is Scotland Yard's coroner, Dr. Courtney Scythe. What the blaze are you talking about? Dr. Scythe? The head of the forensic investigation team and the coroner who conducted the autopsy on the victim? We know there were two bird cages, so who could have carried the switch to complete the illusion? The accident happened in front of a huge crowd of spectators, and the area was immediately sealed off. Then everyone, police officers included, were banished to make way for the forensic investigation team. When else could the switch to have occurred? It can only have been that team's presence. It's essential that the court determines exactly what happened following the incident. The defense demands that Dr. Scythe be summoned to the witness stand at once to testify. We got a nerve, lad! Standing up there, dragging the yard's name through the mud. I didn't need to. I know the woman very well. There's no better dead room worker out there. How dare you? Call her a criminal! My learned friend's imagination appears to be wilder than the East End at night. But the recklessness of your accusation aside, there's another grave problem with your argument. One which the prosecution demands you address at once. Oh my word. Who do you claim attacked it at the victim's doppelganger? What? Certainly, if their bird cage containing the body of the victim was exchanged for another, that cage must also have contained a body. And yet, no missing person or accidental deaths of anyone remotely resembling the victim have been reported. Which means there was no one, dead or alive, who could have fulfilled the role of the body double for Ozman. Ugh, that's true. My argument is that there were two bird cages, and there also must have been one person inside each. I don't know if I've got an answer to this yet. Have I? Can I reveal how this body double stunt was achieved? I can't explain that at the moment. Oh really? And when can the court expect an explanation? Maybe tomorrow? Then you can take your leave of us until then. People who procrastinate lose everything in the end, Mr. Naruto. Ah, darn. That might be a good penguin tip. But for now, you ought to consider what you can do, not what you can't. Alright, yes. I'll think again. What can I do to reveal this body double stunt was achieved? I don't know evidence I can present. Ah, darn. Think about people who I could name. I mean, we know that Enoch captured the head. Anyone else that could work, like Mr. Ozman? Can't be Von Sykes. Oh god. Just realized the shape of their heads. I can't name someone. Can I? God. Very well. The defense will address my learned friend's concerns by presenting some evidence that reveals the true nature of Mr. Osmond's died double. Good gracious! Evidence? I do hope this isn't filibustering, Counsel. The court is expecting a name. If you think you have relevant evidence, present it now. By double in the birdcage were hiding inside the balloon that was floating above the stage, which means that any witness only could have seen them from 60 feet away. So who was it appeared out of that explosion, some 18 meters above the spectators? Aha! The body double inside the second birdcage was... Anyway, I don't think we were supposed to present some evidence.
Take that!
We know that the victim, Mr. Osman, was in the birdcage that was situated inside the kinesis machine on stage. Therefore, he couldn't have been inside the second birdcage. Instead, that contains something else. What's been described as a body double, which has fell from the sky and crashed into the crystal tower. Yes, Counsel. According to your somewhat elaborate version of events, one body double inside that second birdcage was, in fact... It's alright, Mr. Naruto. You're ready for this. Just steel yourself. And come out with it. Thank you, Mrs. Sato. I needed that. As I was saying, the body double inside the second birdcage was... an unbelievable... Wait, well they... Oh, I was that I don't believe it. I actually was correct. I did not I did not I did no I did. I am actually right.